A new patent filed by Sony suggests that the AI could play against you if the opponent rage quits. And remember to subscribe to the channel to get your news as fast as possible. So there's a new patent filed by Sony that suggests that it could actually learn about you if the opponent rage quits. There's a quote over on Reddit, somebody posted about this new patent. I believe it was a Wolfgang Capes yesterday, which would have been June 10th. And you can check the full patent over a Patent Scope website. Now, here's the quote. So, when the first player quits or stops responding before the multiplayer game has completed, the first player is replaced by a computer simulated version of the first player that selects its actions based on probabilities calculated from the tracked actions of the first player. Lots of first players. The multiplayer game is thus able to continue without interruption or disruption, and the first player's playstyle is preserved. So basically what that summarizes all of it to mean is that imagine playing a fighting game like Street Fighter or Tekken, and maybe while you're playing it, the person decides, oh no, stupid player I'm playing against, you know how it is, or somebody decides to rage quit, or maybe there's an internet connection problem. What will happen is that it can actually resemble the characteristics of your fighting style or their play style, depending on who leaves. And so it means that matches don't end once one player leaves. It will try and continue the game as that player, but with their quirks. And this kind of made me think about how AI could be taken further on. Because, of course, what's going to happen is that as technology grows, it's going to get easier and easier to make these systems because we're going to have those tools available. But not just that, the tools themselves will be the gameplay. We've already seen examples of that where developers would try to recreate it. A good example would be something like Alien Isolation. With Alien Isolation back in 2014, I want to say the year was, you don't play the alien. You play this person who is on the ship and there is an alien going around. And so while you're roaming, the alien is roaming and it'll just suddenly be there. And rather than I believe how it works is there's a directory system, and the directory system always points the alien in your general vicinity. And so when it knows roughly where your location is, it will search around that location. So it feels like it has this illusion of intelligence, that it's making its decisions based on where you're going and what you're doing, which it is. It's pointing it in the direction of you. And even other cues, like when you're using certain weapons, like let's say the flamethrower later on in the game, because if you go in all guns blazing, the alien will learn those habits and it will begin to use them against you because it will know how you play. A good example that I know about off the top of my head is that when you're using the flamethrower, sometimes it will get used to the flamethrower so much that it realizes this is a dangerous item. So rather than trying to run away or be scared of it, it'll learn if you pull that out or go anywhere near it, it will charge at you as fast as possible. And the reason why is that it knows it can get to you faster than you can get to it with the flamethrower. And using examples like that, I'm going to go off onto the forest, which tries to learn your habits by trying to learn what you're doing with the different tribes. And these tribes are factions that are on the island of the forest. You crash land and you try and survive and make your way through the jungle while trying to find your son who was kidnapped. And when you wake up, you see these kinds of people who are around, and you can tell they're natives of the island probably. But you realize there are different factions. Some of them are more primitive than the other ones. Some of them are more intelligent. And that shows in their behavior. And the behavior of the factions is their way of handling the AI. And how it tries to learn is, let's say you have a primitive one. There's one that's very much on its like very low, hunkered down, almost on its hands and knees in a very ape-like fashion. And when it starts to move around, it's watching how you're using tools and weapons. And let's say you use fire. So fire, it happens and it goes, whoa, and it gets a little scared of it. But over time, it realizes that you're not attacking it with fire. If you were to just wave it around, it might try to actually get closer to you. So they'll stay at a distance, but over time, as you're building houses, you'll see them there watching you, seeing how you're building, wondering what you're using those tools for, and if those tools are weapons. And when it gets close to you, it'll realize, oh, this isn't actually that dangerous, or they're not going to try to fight me. And it'll use that against you. Some of the other tribes will start using ranged weapons because it'll see that you have an axe or a stone axe that you've carved yourself, and it'll start throwing stuff at you because that's safer for them. It starts to use your actions against you. You'll even have, you can go against that by trying to psych them out. You can actually try to mentally mess with them by maybe taking the skulls of some of the tribes people and then placing them on, stakes and sticks or outside the walls or gates that you make. And then they'll see those, they'll get scared as hell and they'll try and run away. Or they might realize that's a different faction. Maybe we'll be okay and it'll be, we'll get close to them and see what it's like. It will learn your behavior. And speaking of learning your behavior, Echo is one of the most terrifying but terrifically interesting games that uses that concept, where it becomes you. Early in the game, you're trying to find someone, and when you go and touch this cube, or these sludge-like things that are around this facility that you're looking for someone in, one of them touches you, and it takes your DNA, and then they all start to kind of coalesce and come together and make these human shapes. And then in the first maybe hour or so, those shapes start to look like a person, and then they eventually start to look like you. And this becomes, the rest of the game is, it's trying to become you. It's trying to see how you work out problems, and it does this by a weird day and night cycle. So each area you go into will reset, but also when it resets, it'll have this lag. So let's say you go in, the lights are on, it's daytime, you see all of these things that look exactly like you walking around. This camera's shaking now, sorry. And so they're walking around, and then boom, nighttime. They all kind of will just go about their duties, and you can do whatever you want in the nighttime. And then when it goes back to the daytime, they will learn everything from the day before. So I take out my gun, I crouch, I jump over ledges. If they see me doing that, they replicate it. They'll copy me. And then they'll start to use that against me. And if you try to shoot someone, they'll learn how to shoot. If you get better at shooting and just doing headshots, they will learn how to do goddamn headshots. And I remember reading an article from somebody who was reviewing the game when it first launched, that I think it was 2016 when it came out, that there was a Kotaku review, I think, that said, I realized how terrifying the concept of the AI learning about me when I turned the corner and I saw one of them crouching on its way behind me. And that's when I realized that the game tried to sneak attack me. And the idea of a game trying to get behind you, to try and choke you out or try to stab you, makes you think of, imagine being the computer in that sense. When you're the computer being attacked by the player, that's the feeling it gives you, where anything could be anywhere at any time, and it actually has intelligence. And so I have to try and use that against it by not doing anything that would give it more ideas. Because the more you do, the more it'll learn to do against you. And another one that tries to do that against you is Left 4 Dead, but in more of a directorial fashion. The AI director in Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 starts to use the monsters against you by tracking various statistics. So let's say your health, the ammo you have, maybe the amount that you've killed, and it'll start to move them around you in a way. It'll start hiding them behind corners. It'll start moving them with crowds. It'll start doing combos with maybe two special zombies at once. So those are some great examples of AI, or at least AI seeming, that they try to liken it to AI, that I've noticed. And if you've any other ones that you'd like to say, please leave them down in the comments below. And of course, I will reply to all your feedback, because it makes me happy to have these conversations down in the comments. And of course, you can also reach me through the descriptions. I have my links there to my socials. And hey, if you have any advice or feedback for the episodes, please let me know. And thank you very much for listening. Stay safe and stay aware. Goodbye.